Good morning, everybody. Hey, it's Chuck Terry here. I'm joining Don at Duckles Framing, and we're going to do a video today on how to calibrate the blue 45-degree cutting head. This is something that a lot of customers have asked about for a long time. So we're going to go through the process and show you how to do that. Don, thank you for participating in this with us, and I appreciate you being my cameraman and letting us borrow your machine here in beautiful Springfield, Oregon, and at Duckles 2.0. So thank you very much. Today we're going to get started on how to calibrate the blue 45-degree cutting head. The first thing that we want to do is go into the settings under the VStudio software and change a couple of values that are critical to the setup of the blue 45-degree head. We don't have a password on here yet on this setup, so we're just going to hit the login. Most of you will probably have a password on there, but we'll go ahead and click OK through this. And what I want to do is I want to come over here to the far left and click on Machine Settings. And under Machine Settings, I'm going to go to Tools and then Details and Parameters. And then you'll see all the individual heads that are listed in the software. We're going to go to the blue 45 head, and then I need to go to page number 3. On page number 3, we basically have resizing K bevel side out and resizing K opening side out. What those mean are the resizing K bevel side out, or bevel side cut, is for a reverse bevel cut, and then the opening side cut is for a normal cut. Okay, so when we're calibrating, we want to make sure that these are set to 0. So set that to 0, set that to 0, and then save and exit out of the settings. Okay, now we're going to do a mat size here. Really doesn't matter how big you start off with. It's not a big issue. So I've got a 19.5 by 15 mat. I'm going to add an opening in here, and the opening comes in at a default with the 40-degree green cutting head. This needs to be changed. If it doesn't get changed, then it'll assume that you're cutting with that head. So I'm going to click on the option here to bring up the heads. Click on the blue 45. Now you can see it's set up as the blue 45 head. It's a normal cut. It's only on layer 1. My opening dimension is 7.5 by 3. Again, that's not real critical. But what I do need to do at this point is add another opening. Now, I could simply go through and add another opening and then change the head type to the 45 again, but if I just copy and paste, I'll get the same opening with the same blue 45 head. On this one though, I want to change it from a normal cut to a reverse cut. And then when I have that set, I'm going to move it over and center it on top of each other. So it looks like there's only one object there, but in fact there's 2 openings. The reverse cuts, they go counterclockwise from the back. And the normal cuts, they go clockwise from the back. So our goal here is to see if the tip of the blade cuts in the same path for both the normal and reverse cut. Okay, so I'm going to go into Smart Cut here, and we want to make sure we set our material type. I got 4-ply select. You'll notice there's a little checkbox here that says face down. That's critical because all the information that we're going to be cutting here, it needs to have it face down for the proper calculations. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the cut button. It's telling me to load material face down. Got my material loaded, so I'm going to hit the start button. Now it's really important here, you can see on the screen it's telling me to install the 45-degree cutting head and turn the dial or the blade depth to 18. Well, in testing we are going to be just arbitrarily adjusting where we're going to cut. Okay, I don't want to cut through my mat board. I want to just score the surface. So again, ignore the value, and every machine's going to be different. So just ignore the value. Turn your dial down low enough that it will just scratch the surface. Sometimes you have to practice that and figure out where you're at exactly on depth. But I'm going to go ahead and set mine to 14. Okay. And then we're going to hit start, and we're going to let the machine run. So this is doing the counterclockwise cut. Just barely scoring into the material, as you can see. I'll pull this up a little bit closer once it's finished. Now it's doing the clockwise cut. And that's basically what we wanted to do. Now you can see that those two paths, those two cut lines, are not on top of each other. Okay? So that indicates that the height of the foot, the mechanical height of the foot on the blue head, needs to be adjusted. So we're going to take the blue cutting head off and show you how to make the proper adjustments. So in the software, I'm going to do tool change, loosen the locking handle, pivot the head, take my security screw, loosen it, fork tool, pop it in, pull the cutting head off. And then with this cutting head, this is a newer generation Blue 45. It has a metal foot, and the adjustment is a little bit hidden, but what we have to do is we have to loosen the security screw first. This is a 3mm Allen key, so I'm going to loosen that. Make sure the Allen key is all the way in. You don't want to strip the screw. Break it free. And then take your 2.5mm Allen key, turn the cutting head on its side, and right here next to the hole that goes up on the magnets, or up against the shaft, is a little tiny access hole for the screw that moves the foot up and down. Okay, so now I need to adjust based off of what I've got cut there. I need to adjust the foot down because that's too wide of a cut. They're not on top of each other. So I'm going to go and adjust this to the right, half, 1, half, 2. Now, how far you will go with it and adjust it, sometimes you might have to go through it a couple of different times to get it just right. But once you made the adjustment, be sure to secure the screw back into place, and then we can put the cutting head back onto the machine.
Be careful not to turn.
Okay. And there is a possibility that you could inadvertently move the position of the cutting head. So what I recommend is once you put the cutting head on, you secure it into place, you go back up to the software. I'm going to hit the stop button here, and then I'm going to click on homing. That's going to readjust and reposition the head in case it moved and got off track. And if it does get off track, then you're just going to be chasing your tail all day long, trying to get the proper width, because the cutting head is on a slight angle, and you're going to get different widths that will not really make any sense. So you want to make sure that the hook value is good, and that you're getting straight cut lines. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into create. I'm going to adjust the size of the opening, 8.5 to 4. Do the same thing to the next opening, 8.5 to 4, and then I send a cut, make sure I've got my check mark from my face down, 4-ply select, and I hit cut, start. Now, the fact that I adjusted the foot means that the blade depth is going to go deeper into the material. So again, sometimes you have to do this a couple times, but arbitrarily bring the value down and just let it run to see if it cuts a nice thin little line, or if it cuts through, then redo it and set the depth a little lower. I've got a nice little shallow cut there. All right, let's see what we got. Okay, so compared to what we did have, a wide basic V-groove look, to a cut where the blade landed in the same spot both counterclockwise and clockwise. So that means that the foot height of the head is correct, and we can move on and proceed on to additional adjustments. All right, so now that we know that the foot height is set properly on the blue cutting head, we're going to continue to make the adjustments that we need to finish calibrating the machine. I'm back here on the create screen. You can see I've got my two objects in here still. I no longer need my reverse cut, so I'm going to just go ahead and select it and then hit the delete key and get rid of it. I'll center this one back into the middle of the mat and adjust the size. And we're going to go 9.5 to 5, and this is a normal cut. So this cut is going to go in a clockwise direction, and again, I'm not wanting to cut all the way through yet. Okay, so I've got my face down option, 4-ply select, and we're going to go ahead and cut, and we should get the same depth that we had before. I'm going to go a little bit deeper, again, not to cut all the way through, just so I can see the line a little bit better when I'm measuring, because now we're trying to adjust the size of the opening. Okay, it's telling me 18, I'm ignoring that. Okay, so now I'm going to hit stop over here. I'm going to go back to create, see what my opening dimension was, because I forgot. So 9.5 by 5. So let's see what we have. Now this is a white mat, so it's going to be a little bit difficult. You'll just have to trust me when I'm measuring it here. I'm going to hold it on the 1 and come over here, and I can see that I am pretty much at 9.5. But let's go this direction as well, and I'm pretty much on there as well. So what that means is my settings, bring up those real quick. Machine settings, details and parameters, 45 blue, page 3. So the resizing K opening side cut is at 0, which is what we needed it to be when we were calibrating. And after doing the adjustments to the height of the foot and measuring the cut from the back of the mat at the bottom of the bevel, it indicates that we don't need a value in there. Sometimes the value can be a little value of like 0.2, 0.4, but relatively speaking, the resizing K opening side cut value is usually very, very small compared to the resizing K bevel cut side for reverse cuts. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and leave that at 0. If we needed to make an adjustment, put a value in there of 0.2, 0.4, we would save the setting and then recut another opening to see if it had corrected the size, if it's off a 32nd, a 64th, or what have you. Okay, but we're good on this one. So we're just going to hit the save and exit. And We'll come back to a reverse bevel cut in just a bit, but now the next step is to determine the depth of the cut. Okay, how deep do we need to set the dial to in order for it to cut through the mat properly? Okay, so I'll adjust the size of the opening, 10.5 by 6, hit send to cut, face down, 4-ply select, hit cut. Again, program is telling me 18. I'm just barely scoring through the surface there at 7, so I'm going to bring it up somewhere around 15, and let's see what that does for us. So it did cut through, not all the way through. You can see one side didn't finish all the way, so that's probably an indication that I need to go just a little bit deeper. So we'll go just a little bit deeper on that. So I'll just change the size of the cut. Let's go 11.5 by 7, send it to cut, and we'll go to 18. Voila. Okay. Cut out the openings. Flip it over, look at the corners. And we probably do need to make some adjustments to the corner. There's a slight overcut, but we'll talk about that in a different video. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to jump back to doing a reverse bevel cut. Again, in our settings, we have one of the resizing K values still at 0. So we need to more than likely adjust that up, but we need to do a test cut to see. So in this one, we're doing a reverse cut with the blue 45, and it's going to cut counterclockwise again. Okay, so I'm going to go into Smart Cut, face down, 4-ply, and hit cut. We've already preset the depth for a normal cut, so the reverse cut depth should follow as well. So we're asking for 18, we've got it on 18, and we'll hit start to see what we get. Okay, it dropped out fine. Looks clean. This is a reverse bevel, so I'm flipping the mat over. Okay, got some nice clean corners, maybe a little overcut, but what we need to do is adjust the size of the opening. So let me come back here, see what size cut I've got. So 7.5 inches. Okay, so if I measure this, I can see that I am off size-wise. I'm almost 3/8 of an inch, and I need to be at 7.5. So my opening dimension is off by 1/4 of an inch. Okay, or 1/8 of an inch, excuse me. Okay, so I need to adjust that out to get the right size. So flip the board back over, load it into the machine, open up the settings. Log in, go into settings, machine settings, details and parameters, 45, page 3, and my resizing K bevel side out, which is basically a reverse bevel. In a lot of cases, I see this number up around 10. So we'll start there first and hit save. And I'm just going to leave this window open for a moment. Jump back to the create. Increase the size of the cut. Send that to cut. It's still a reverse bevel cut. Face down, 4-ply, cut. Start 18 again, which is good. Okay, piece is still dropping out, looking good. Let's flip it over. It's supposed to be 8.5. Let's see what we get. 8.5. So that's how you would calibrate the blue 45 reverse cut. Let's check this dimension here. And we're right on 5 there.